Thanks, Dylan. And as you notice, I have actually put a hat on this time. The reason for that is that sometimes we end up wearing different hats in the agriculture world. I know when Gavin Willis was up here, he's director of Ag Water Board. He's also the Red Raspberry director. Well, in certain roles, sometimes I wear different hats, and in this case, I am not the executive director of Whatcom Family Farmers, as it said. Well, I think it says it on your agenda. I have a contract. I work with the Washington State Dairy Federation, and I wanted to talk something we haven't talked about at previous meetings is a little bit about what's happening with stockwater. This is just take a few minutes. For those of you who aren't engaged in stockwater, we'll be brief. The broad issue here is some folks might not know that stockwater is exempt from is a permit exempt use. You can go back, that's been back into the 1940s, I believe they did that, and that's something that's done across the country. They don't have to get permits. Now, what most folks don't recognize is this doesn't mean that stockwater is exempt from the adjudication. You still need to file under the adjudication. You're still going to be in the first in time, first and right line. That, and you take care of looking at that. And so that's one of the big things that we did. Although others spoke about the Whatcom County website and Department of Ecology and some of the calculators there, we were really concerned when we saw the stockwater calculator because it was a long ways away from what we knew our farms were using. So over the last quite a period of time, that's one of the things we've been working on is coming up with an accurate stockwater calculator. I also think it's important to note that one of the things that happened out of this is that the dairy farmers formed a group called DAWG, Dairy Action Water Group. We ended up contracting with a really high quality water rights attorney because we were concerned about our stockwater right and what was going to be happening there. And one of the big concerns there is that stockwater is defined as the care and feeding of animals. There have been those who have been attempting to separate the care, the place where you wash the animals, the place where you clean bottles, clean barns, that sort of stuff, from the feeding, the actual stockwater. Without including that in the permit, that could be a real disaster for us. And so we've been working really hard to defend that. So far have been somewhat successful, but there is more issues coming with that, and we need to make sure we're staying on that. So this, if there are those of you out there who would be interested, we would love to see you be involved with DAWG. We have a significant number of the dairies in Whatcom County that have joined. If there are any others, we would love to talk to you about that. I know that Natalie, as well as David Haggith, my cohort at N3 Consulting, will be at one of the tables out here afterwards. So I'm going to have Natalie come up now and just spend a few minutes talking through the actual stockwater calculator. And I think I went the wrong way, Natalie. Uh-oh. So I will, you figure that out, and then we'll go from there. So there it is, right? There we are. Okay, here's.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Natalie Doelman. Like Fred said, I'm a policy analyst with the Washington State Dairy Federation. So we're based out of Elma, but we serve all of Washington dairy farms. So over the last about 9 months, I've been working with a lot of dairymen up in Whatcom County. So thank you for those of you who have answered my numerous phone calls and given me feedback on this, as well as vendors local to the area and with universities such as University of Idaho, University of New Hampshire, and University of New Mexico to really come up with accurate estimates for what stockwater, how much stockwater dairies use on a daily basis, much more than just feeding or much more than just drinking water, but every practice that goes into cleaning the barns and everything else. So this is available. You can just ask Fred for it and he'll send it to you. You can also contact me. My information is on the Washington State Dairy Federation website. I'll also be hanging out here for a little while. Just high level to walk through this. We have in the very first section, which is drinking consumption. The estimates that we use here does take into account the heat stress days. Apparently you guys have some really hot days in the summer, which we don't have out by the coast. So taking that into account when in raising the average drinking consumption a little bit, as well as for calves, and that also includes everything that is used for washing the bottles, as well as the milk replacer. And then going down further, we've got a significant use in the parlor and robots, so we have that split out. I worked with vendors on milking robots versus traditional parlors and how that water use changes, as well as the hose down water averages. The key with this is these really kind of are averages. So if you know and you have metered data that can tell you that you use more or less in a certain category, you guys are all data-driven people, dairymen generally are, feel free to change these fixed variables, but this is the best available science that I could find. So that's sort of how I came to these averages. And as well as down in the bulk tank section, which you guys can't really see it, and I don't know if my thing's working, but we do have a section on bulk tank wash. Right now I have lines for 2 bulk tanks, but if you have more than that, you can just duplicate those formulas. If you don't want to touch a spreadsheet, I get it. Just reach out to me and I can help you add that in there. As well as things like flush usage, if you add any water into your flush, if you use misters, if you add water to feed at any time, how many times a week or a month you use foot baths. So we have pretty solid numbers for coefficients to figure out how much stock water is used on dairy. So if you want any help filling this out, feel free to reach out to me and I would love to walk you through that. That's sort of what I got. Short and sweet, hopefully.